Okay, good evening, everyone. We had some procedural issues to discuss up here before we got started tonight. Welcome to tonight's regularly scheduled City Council meeting. If you'll all please rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation will be given by Reverend Ed Glaze with Fairhope United Methodist Church.
Let us pray. We come before you, O author of all wisdom, seeking your guidance for these, our elected officials, as they seek the best for the people of this city. We pray that they will seek after you and what is best for every person in this community. Guide and direct their discussions. May they be civil and tinged with grace, so that even when disagreements may occur, they may see how the other point of view may carry some of your wisdom and your guidance. Help us all, Lord, as we strive to make this town all that you dream it to be, to work together so that all who are a part of this community will know the blessings of your provision and know that you are a God who loves each and every person who walks the face of this earth. May what goes on here tonight reflect how much we love you and love this town. Ask this now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Glaze. Council, I would like to somebody to entertain a motion to amend the agenda. Prior to our budget discussion, we should add the uniform job description of planning technician. So you should have a copy of this. This is a wage range of $15 to $19 per hour. I can pass this along to you, but if somebody would just like to make the motion to amend the agenda to add, we will add this right below council comments, the item of uniform job description for planning technician.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to amend the agenda to put in a resolution to approve the position of planning technician. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of amending the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, the agenda is amended. Next item is to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting, the work session, and the agenda meetings which are held on the 10th of April 2017. Does anybody have any changes, additions, deletions to this? No changes to these documents right now. I'd entertain a motion to approve all of these minutes.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, thank you, council. Mayor Wilson, your report, please.
Thank you, President Brown. Okay. Have a lot to go over, and I'm going to go over a little bit about the budget, and then I'm going to go into the veto. I did catch on the agenda that after the mayor report was the voting on my veto, so I did get that switched out. There will be comments and public participation after my mayor notes. The budget sets goals and objectives for our city. It is the single most important task entrusted to the mayor and council. It is the mayor's responsibility as the chief executive officer of the city of Fairhope to prepare and propose a budget, and it's council's responsibility to adopt it. Of course, I anticipated council to have input and suggest changes. I fully expected we would have dialogue and discussion over the budget prior to tonight's meeting. More importantly, I think our citizens and taxpayers expected it. No, this did not happen. Before I took office, I have worked diligently to assess the city's needs on a department-by-department basis. Unlike the council, I have worked daily on this and with our department heads and employees to propose a detailed and responsible budget. Although I have reached out repeatedly to council to meet with me, call or email with questions, or at the very least engage Jill, our finance director, this did not happen. I received a hard copy of council's changes to my proposed budget on Thursday. I received it from Jill because it was not sent to me. It is Exhibit 2 and the copies I had printed. If you don't know how many are out there, but you can review that. I had planned a meeting at Friday, which I live streamed. So really, the council would watch that, and I hope they did. I asked them to watch the video before tonight's meeting. The department heads talked about how these changes will affect their departments. They also talked about how this hiring freeze has affected them and their department, and ultimately the services to the city of Fairhope. On the agenda that was posted Thursday, item 17 simply says, approve the budget. To assume that each council person agrees on each edit on that 2-page document in front of you, when council cannot deliberate in between meetings, would be absurd. Different councilmen have different opinions on each item. I would imagine, and even if they don't, the citizens need to see each one of the changes, because my budget has been transparent to you for some time. More importantly, councilmen need to take accountability for each individual vote on those changes. Again, they can't deliberate in between meetings. So how they would know that all of them agreed on all these changes, I wouldn't know that. I spoke with our city attorney, Tut, who was in communication with Matt, our outside counsel, and my suggestion was to break out each change into a resolution that would be added to the agenda. I asked Lisa to do this for me, but it was not on the agenda. As you can see, it still says approval of the budget. It wasn't until I got to the work session that I discovered these individual resolutions didn't make it to the agenda. So I will have Jeff, our IT person, show these changes on the screen when we get to agenda item number 17. Another key change the council made was removing the position of the Economic and Community Development Director. It is not council's role to determine the positions needed to run a city. That is my job as mayor. In the past, many cities this size of Fairhope focused primarily on recreation and events as a community development. However, today is a strongly held belief backed by substantial research, that cities the size of Fairhope must integrate community and economic development to achieve fiscal well-being and responsible growth. According to experts at the Federal Reserve who study economic indicators for small municipalities, community development is economic development. The city of Fairhope has historically had a community affairs and recreation director with a focus on recreation and event planning. It is a critical time for Fairhope's rapid growth that the city progresses to achieve a 21st century model of small municipal community and economic development. The old paradigm is no longer sufficient. The new approach includes integrating Fairhope's strategic growth and priorities with a regional comprehensive plan. This must be done not to change the identity of Fairhope and its small town charm, but to protect it. I asked council to create the position for the Economic and Community Development Director, which they did 4 months ago. The pay grade was established based on the job description that is also in your packet. The responsibility of that pay grade is neither mine nor council. I filled this position with an excellent candidate who happily uprooted her family from DC to move to Fairhope. Her husband left his position as the assistant DA for DC. She left a high-level leadership position for a nonprofit. They sold their home, moved here, and bought a new home. Now council wants to eliminate that position. Of course, it's not separated out in the line of 17 that just says approve the budget. Council cannot hire or fire. They can't move someone into another position. That is my job. Is this fair to Sherry Lee? Fair to the city? It is important that the decisions being made are in the best interest of the city and its future. It is imperative that expertise is sought out in making these decisions and that politics does not impede on progress. On the slide, slide 1, and in your packets, here are 3 separate organizational charts related to the Economic and Community Development Department. You can take a second to look at that. The first is the organizational chart as it existed when I took office. The second is an organizational chart as it stands now, with only 1 additional employee recommended. To meet the overwhelming demand and need for consistent and clear communication between the citizens and the city related to everything from emergency preparedness to events to reports on city affairs and other important announcements. This role, as envisioned, would help with communication from all parts of government, including city council and city committee communications. It is designed to be a source for everyone, and it includes outward PR to visitors, tourists, and business entities looking to invest in Fairhope. The third organizational chart represents what the department will look like. We would no longer have an economic and community development director. The department remains because the department and the organizational chart is the mayor's role. There would be no one responsible for improving communications, both internally and externally, and the current event staff person would be oddly eliminated. Bottom line, in your packet you have 2 job descriptions. One is for the Economic and Community Development Director, a position that was approved by council and now they want to take it away. In its place, they want to add a Director of Community Affairs and Recreation, a position I do not need. We've always had someone in place to run the rec center. We've always had a Parks and Recreation Director. We've always had someone to run the Nick Center. Her last day was Friday. And we've always had someone managing city events. It's a position I don't need, I will not fill, because I need an Economic and Community Development Director to do my job to fulfill the vision that I have presented to you for the citizens and for what you voted me in to do. I'm going to get into the veto. I vetoed the council's ordinance amendment extending the sunset provision for several reasons. First, the election results from last November demonstrated clearly the community's lack of support for constructing a large apartment complex in the environmentally sensitive area of Fly Creek. We have already seen the detrimental impacts of large-scale type development in this area and its impact on the ecosystem as well as on the adjacent property owners. We should be requiring and enforcing more stringent requirements on developers of large-scale projects like this instead of relaxing our standards. Secondly, I vetoed the ordinance because the developer removed the self-imposed drainage system that the former council approved. And the outside engineer the city hired was not hired for an opinion on whether or not this would work. He was hired to make sure this drainage system matched our regulations. There's a big difference. Now, there is a third reason, what I spent most of my weekend on. A reason I just discovered and worked on over the weekend. Because of this discovery, the citizens will not have the full backup, will now have the full backup of the agenda, which is something I see and council sees. You're no longer going to just see that agenda. You're going to receive everything that goes with that agenda, all the backup. Because Lord knows we can't afford things like this to happen in the future. This discovery, I fully intend to have investigated, but for now, during the very last council meeting before I took office on October 24th, timing is everything, there was a resolution on the agenda to accept the lift station from Arthur Cordy. It was pretty straightforward. The city does this routinely with new development. But another agenda was uploaded after this that included Exhibit A as part of the resolution, but there was no backup for this. There's still no backup for it online. Slide 1. Exhibit A. I looked online, again, called Jeff, he confirmed. No backup for Agenda A. Where was I going to find a copy of Agenda A? From the courthouse. It includes a deed of gift, this is on slide 2, from Arthur Cordy that was recorded on October 21st, the Friday before the council meeting, October 24th. Slide 3. Shows a map of what was included with that lift station. If I had my little marker, I could tell you, but that big blue highlighted area, that's over 3 acres of land. Wetlands. Doesn't take over 3 acres of wetlands for a lift station. This 3 acres of wetlands was the source of the public's lawsuit. We lost that lawsuit. Did you know about this 3 acres?
This is the first time I'm seeing this.
Did you know? Did you know? Jack?
I don't know that I did.
Robert? Kevin? Did you know about the
No.
Exhibit A?
I still don't know about it. I don't even have it on my screen. I can't even see it.
It's up there.
I'm sure it is. It's not right there.
October 21st, you took office October 24th. Sneaking it in.
The former city council accepted on October 24th, 2016, a deed from Arthur Cordy dated October 21st for 3 acres of wetlands, over 3 acres of wetlands. Prior to the council's vote, the deed had already been recorded and filed at the probate court. These 3 acres of wetlands are part of the PUD on which the apartment development is situated. It is highly doubtful, based on the lack of transparency and the manner in which the initial agenda item was worded, that the city appreciated the legal responsibility it was accepting with the deed for these 3 acres of wetlands. If construction of the apartment complex, like the previous public's project, results in the discharge of stormwater pollution into those wetlands, the city could be subject to liability under federal and state environmental laws. More importantly, there is simply no benefit to the city owning over 3 acres of wetlands. For this reason, I ask the City Council to suspend the rules and deliberate on the legal liability issue pertaining to the city's acceptance of this deed. Moreover, on the request for extension of the sunset provision, I ask the council to make their decision based on this new information that was not made transparent. The lack of transparency with this transfer of deed should give you pause. I would further note that the original acceptance resolution that was sent to the council for these 3 acres did not match the deed for the 3 acres that was identified in the resolution that passed on October 24th. The city has been beset by millions of dollars of legal bills over the past several years. I am doing my very best to fight that tide of legal bills. But this particular project is a serious threat to the well-being of the citizens and the environment of Fairhope. During the last council meeting, there was a lot of talk about fairness. I hope you will consider this when you vote on the next item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll now move to public participation. You will be limited to 3 minutes. I will put you on the timer up here, so if you want to come forward to the podium, state your name and address. For the record, this will be for agenda items only. Agenda items only. If you wish to speak to the council about items that are not on the agenda, you may do so at the end of the meeting. Floor is open.
So we won't be talking about that?
Talk about
I mean, we can't readdress the veto?
Yeah.
Francis Rip with the Rip Report. I don't know how many people in here really understand exactly the liability that we're inheriting with this piece of property. When you read what was supposed to be done, and it is done commonly, it was just supposed to be for the land under the lift station, which wouldn't even be anywhere near the size of this room. What we've done now, by inheriting this piece of property, is that we have given every single person on Fly Creek standing to sue us if there's any flooding at all. And how can you expect there not to be any, because that is the lowest point of all of that property? That is the wetlands. The way this was done, and to get 3 acres of the very piece of property that was key to the lawsuit, the first lawsuit, which I was involved in. You have to understand that the judge at the time was so concerned about the lawsuit, the issue, that we had a field trip. And he took all of us down to that piece of property. All the lawyers, everybody involved, and we walked that property and explained to him and showed him how it was flooding, how it was going in the creek, what the damage was, and that finally got resolved. I shouldn't have resolved it so easily, because I was depending on the council to do its best not to have something like this happen. But no, we did this deal. Now, during the council meeting, and I went back and looked at it, Diana Brewer is sitting there when this comes up, Jack, and you ask about Exhibit A. No one acknowledges that they got Exhibit A. And Diana Brewer speaks up and says, well, we should table this. You never acknowledged her. But this is 3 days before, so what are you voting on? You already did it. It was already filed and everything. We inherited the piece of property. You talk about fairness? You guys were all about fairness? You tell me how you think this is fair, because you're putting every single person in this city is going to be liable for any damage there. And I can assure you, it's coming. I mean, there's just no way around it. The lift station, most of the line, I think really the line itself that goes across the creek is on the right-of-way. It's only a very small portion that is the lift station itself. We don't need the 3 acres. However, if I was a developer, for $10, I'd be jumping up and down that I shed the liability of every bit of that. So I hope you're thinking when you vote on this thing now, just exactly how fair you're going to be to us.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Johnny Cheney. I live on 598 Middle Street. Kind of getting tired of being a celebrity, but I need to speak. I live in between Nickel Street and Fair Lane. As a matter of fact, I live on Middle Street and Fair Lane. And we have 3 new construction projects going on over there. They're cleaning up lots. We already have a bad drainage problem over there, and I was up here last time about that problem. And some of these guys, we need an engineer over there as they're cleaning these places up, because we have a drain, a big deep drain that runs all the way down to the bay, that goes all the way I guess it goes all the way from up here, goes all the way to the bay. But anyway, whoever is cleaning those places up, they are forcing water back on some of the people in my area, and we already have a bad area there. You build a berm on Middle Street to try to keep that water running straight down the road. And so this guy that built down the hill down there, he has messed the drain up to where the water gonna back up, back and just sit down towards Middle Street. One of the houses that's already on Middle Street look like they cut some tires and put around their drain, you know, like you have those little openings up under your house. Look like they cut some tires to keep water, try to keep water from going up under the house, messing up the flow and everything. We need somebody down there to see what's going on. Now, I had Arthur down there. I showed him a little bit about how the water was running, but I hadn't walked down there and checked on how they was cleaning these properties up. But somebody need to come down there and look. One guy is building right down the middle of the drain. I've never seen no mess like this before. I mean, it's a big drain, and he's cleaning up this little lot to put a house down there over that drain. I can't believe what's going on here in Fairhope with a lot of the situation. We need somebody to oversee a lot of this stuff that's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cheney. Just a note on Mr. Cheney, just one response to that is that the position of Public Works Director is required to be a civil engineer, and I'd hoped that that job was released some time ago. I'd hoped that we had one by now, so we're going to get on that.
Mayor Wilson, Council President Burrell, Councilman Robinson, Conyers, Brown, and Boone. My name is Maggie Mosteller, and I've been a resident of Fairhope for 34 years. Thank you for allowing me to address 2 of the issues on tonight's agenda. But first, I want to say how very grateful I am to each one of you for generously taking on the responsibility of serving the citizens of Fairhope. I can't imagine how difficult a job this must be. I can't imagine how thankless a job it might be at times. So again, thank you to each one of you, and especially to you, Mayor Wilson. Thank you especially, Council, for your unanimous vote at the last council meeting approving the mayor's choice to hire the Gulf Coast Community Design Studio. I now ask you to approve the contract for these services. I have personally witnessed the dedication that David Perks and Kelsey Johnson of the Gulf Coast Community Design Studio have shown with regard to seeing that the needs of all Fairhope citizens are addressed. The confidence that you place in them and the work they will be contracted to do will be worth every penny, as it promises to make your jobs a lot easier. Doesn't that sound good? At the end of their contract, you will be rewarded with a clear picture of what the city's needs are, as well as recommendations of how those needs can responsibly and fairly be served. With your approval of this contract for the services of the Gulf Coast Community Design Studio, in the end, you win, but so does the city of Fairhope. The second item I wish to address is the budget, which Mayor Wilson submitted for your approval. I appreciate the care with which each of you is considering each item in the budget in fulfillment of your promises to be fiscally responsible with the city's assets. Because Fairhope is growing at the fastest rate in the county, it would seem to me and to many others that the city's needs require a Department of Economic and Community Development. It is my opinion and the opinion of many other well-respected concerns that it is extremely important that the budget include this department and the position of director as held by Sherry Lee Bloodworth Botop. I have observed firsthand the tireless efforts Sherry Lee has made as Director of Economic and Community Development through my involvement with several community meetings that have been held since Mayor Wilson was sworn in. In fact, while Sherry Lee was still working in Washington, D.C., she participated in one of these meetings via a conference call. And Council President Burrell, I remember you being there. As Lynn Mazer told us earlier, Sherry Lee at this moment is back in Washington, D.C., working on behalf of our city with Representative Bradley Byrne, someone you've all heard of, and with some of the people with whom she had contact at HUD and other federal agencies during her years there before she returned to Fairhope to work with Mayor Wilson in January. As Mayor Wilson told you, Sherry Lee left an important position in our nation's capital, as did her husband. They moved their family here to Fairhope because of her commitment and dedication to working to ensure that Fairhope's resources are protected and to helping identify and create ways to generate revenue that can be reinvested in our community's quality of life. The department and the position Sherry Lee holds is crucial to the city, and it would be a travesty were you to eliminate it from the budget. And lastly, I'd like to point out that the Department of Economic and Community Development is only a new department in that the name was changed of an existing department that was called Community Affairs and Recreation, which handled events, adult special services, and recreation. Again, because Fairhope is the fastest growing city in Baldwin County, and in addition to seniors and retirees, we will be attracting business people, businesses, young families with growing needs, and I am confident with Sherry Lee Bloodworth Botop as director of the newly named Department of Economic and Community Development, the strategic direction of this department will prove to be more comprehensive, relevant to the city's growing needs, and beneficial to all of Fairhope. She will work for the entire community, the entire city. I beg you, include in the budget the Department of Economic and Community Development and Sherry Lee Bloodworth Botop as its director. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and again for your service to our city.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Wilson, our city council. I'm Lee Fraley. I live at 213 North Circle. I appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening. I've addressed city council on several occasions during the last couple of years. My position is clear and unwavering. I oppose apartment construction on the Cordy property on Fly Creek. On the issue of extending the sunset period, I support the City Council in permitting this extension. I trust the knowledge, wisdom, and judgment of City Council in this matter. Thank you.
Dean Mosher, 456 Oak Avenue, Fairhope, Alabama. The Castles. I've been here 42 years. Back in the 1940s, there was a new restaurant that opened up in New York, and a lot of the Yankees went there. And then it got very, very popular, and they quit going, and somebody asked Casey Stengel why, and he said, well, nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. And we're facing that in Fairhope. We have a 65% growth rate projected in the next 20 years. We're the fastest growing county and the 7th fastest growing county in the United States. I haven't seen any of you all bring forward plans on parking, how we're going to handle our growth, density. All you see is building subdivisions and subdivisions, which are just going to dilute it. We can't afford it. The infrastructure can't take it. We do not have the sales tax revenue that they have in Foley or in Daphne because of the big box stores. And thank God we don't have the big box stores. But the only way we're going to survive is if you have economic development. You've got to plan. I haven't seen any of you put forward on how we're going to get some of these cars off the street so people actually come down here. We're starting to have people who bypass our city because they can't find a parking place. I don't see you trying to solve these problems. The 56 positions that the single tax just funded behind the library is just a dot on what we need. There should have been potentially a parking deck plan there or other parking that's there. We're putting in these high density developments without covering where people are going to actually park or move around this city. Now, economic development is absolutely key role in this, and Sherry is one of the best people you could ever ask for. Now, this bombshell that Karen just dropped about this 3+ acres that was snuck in without an exhibit, declared and registered 3 days or 4 days before the vote, that's a travesty. And there is some kind of good old boy network behind this, I can tell you that. And it's going to be looked into. There's a lot that's being looked into, a lot. So I'm asking you, don't do a herd mentality on this. The very survival of this town and its economic future depends on planning for these things. And I'm asking you to take it and think carefully about this and not do what these two say because they pushed through that Exhibit A that didn't exist. And we voted the other ones out so we could get rid of behavior like that, Jack. You're absolutely responsible for that, and you can stand there and look smug all you want to, buddy, but you pushed it through. And you left us with the aftermath. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Ron Allen, 6612 Willowbridge Drive. I'm not going to get personal. You all do your best. Karen does her best. But I do want a full explanation during the discussion of the budget item as to why you are recommending or deciding to eliminate that position. Because from my perspective, it sounds good, but I don't know y'all's position. So I'd like to have a full discussion of that when you all vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kelly Eby with 9828 Charity Avenue. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit. Do we have a, as we're talking about the budget, do we have a finance committee that's been advising y'all on the budget? I'm sorry?
The council is the finance committee for the city of Fairhope.
What experience do you have on finances this size?
5 years in the city.
Yeah, but you also had the airport authority stuff from us too, so I
I'm
don't
not
really
giving
trust
that.
necessarily your transparency. What experience do you have, Councilman Robinson,
You know what, man,
on?
you're out of line, and one more comment like that and you'll sit down.
Okay. What experience do you have to advise on a budget of this size?
I have a finance degree from the University of South Alabama, and I've been a litigator of complex litigation for the past 11 years.
Thank you.
I work for a community bank, $650 million bank, so work on budget
Perfect.
annually for that.
Thank you.
I'm on the Alabama State Home Builders Board, and currently the treasurer of that, overseeing their finances.
Thank you.
35 years of running my own business and keeping it afloat.
Good stuff. Thank you. I'm just concerned because we do have a question of transparency in the prior term, 4 years. Coming into this term, we have a lot of stuff coming out. We just had some more stuff come out in the mayor's report. So if our transparency seems to struggle with the council, we're not hearing from you other than at these meetings. So if you're having these meetings about the budget within just yourself, but you're not discussing things to let the citizens know, you're going to keep this room packed every single meeting. And we're going to spend 20 or 30 minutes prior to the voting and then afterwards with participation because there's a lack of trust from us. There's a disconnect. And we're just not getting what we need from y'all, the communication to know what you're doing and why you're doing it, like speaking of the position that Sherry Lee has. We have no clue. And then you talk about things right before you vote, and you unleash a huge amount of information to us, like you did when you voted on the sunset expiration. Y'all had a great conversation right before you voted. I wish you had had it with us at the meeting prior to your vote, because you did tell us a lot of information we didn't know. That probably would have kept an hour's worth of public participation prior to your voting down to maybe 20 minutes. Is there any way we can get you guys to talk to us more openly in a more timely manner than right before you cast your vote?
A lot of time, we don't know what's going to be on the agenda until 3 days prior, so we don't know what's going to be on the agenda 2 weeks to mention it.
Well, the sunset thing, we knew that was going to be on because it was on the meeting prior, and then again, and again, you guys had an awesome discussion, but it was right before you voted. And it's really just a matter, is it really that difficult?
Well, the other point is we can't get together and have a discussion with the community without it being a public meeting. I mean, we're limited by the Open Meetings Act with more than two of us getting together at a time to discuss city business. I'm going to say something. I had multiple citizens reach out to me over the weekend on the number that I have listed on the city's website to ask me some of these questions. And I had hour-long conversations with a lot of them to explain sort of what's going on behind the scenes that you might not get to see up here. And I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for myself and tell you where I'm coming from on my positions. And I'll be glad to do that to anybody that wants to reach out to me and ask. But we are limited in having these discussions with the public together because there are open meetings requirements.
I just think that there are going to always be agenda items that going into them, they're going to be really sensitive to us. And if you were to set yourselves up to communicate with us in advance and not minutes before you cast your vote, you're going to find us responding completely differently to you. And that's all we're asking from all of you. Give us a chance to trust you. That's all we need.
Always happens to the people in the back.
Pardon?
I'm just sorry, just from what you see here, other people stand up in the back and the people in the front, they never see them. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you so much for allowing us to speak. Mayor Wilson, councilman, and our city clerk women. I respect, again, all what you guys are doing, and public service, and indeed was your choice to get involved in public service. Hope all of you guys did it from really wanting to give something to the community here. I know you guys all love Fairhope. That's why you wanted to run for office. Not just anybody can run for office. It takes a person who really loves their city and loves the people. And I truly feel deep down that that all of you guys really do love the city. And are in the positions that you're in to truly help the people and make a difference. Please don't be in it for monetary reasons. You will be judged on that. You know, Scripture says, to whom much is given, much is required. So you are at a higher level, just like a pastor. A pastor's going to be at a higher level of accountability because of his flock. You, because of the positions that you have, you will be held at a higher position again. To whom much is given, much is required. That's a scripture. You guys can look it up. I'm sure you're familiar with it. There's also Psalm 103, which says, how good and pleasant it is when brethren dwell together in unity. It is like the blessings coming down from heaven. How good and pleasant it is when brethren dwell together in unity. It is like the blessings coming down from heaven. Psalm 133. Do you guys, Mayor Wilson, Councilman, do you guys get together outside of work? Do you go in each other's offices? Do you say, hey, how you doing? You want to go grab some lunch? Can we get together? Do you associate outside of these meetings? Do you hang out with each other? Please get to know each other on a friendly basis and put this playground sand fight in back of you. We have, for those of you who liked the previous mayor, Tim Kant, Mayor Wilson is our mayor now. She was voted in, so let's put whatever you still have that you're holding on to from the previous administration. We have a new administration now. Again, it was mentioned here several times before. Transparency, accountability, respect, honor. These are all biblical virtues. The Bible says that God's throne, righteousness and justice are the foundation of the Lord's throne. Let's make righteousness and justice the foundation of what you guys base everything on that you're doing. And then, based on the position that Karen wants to fill, that Mayor Wilson was speaking about, and then previously talking about the Airport Authority Board and reappointing, appointing position, but where is it written down in law? Is it a law that council can reappoint or appoint positions? Because I went and looked up council's responsibility in Alabama. Google's wonderful. You can find anything on Google. I went and looked up the mayor's responsibility in Alabama, and I looked up council's responsibility in Alabama. I cannot find where it is written that where it's written as law, that council can reappoint or appoint positions. That the Mayor Wilson keeps saying that that's her responsibility, it's not yours. So then that's it, enough said. Why can't she appoint who she wants to appoint, since council, it's not a law that council can reappoint or appoint positions?
She can nominate who she wants, and council has to vote on the appointment. So there's a separation of duties there.
And if you're talking about hiring positions, the council has the clear authority to make appointments under certain conditions. We make 5 in the city. The mayor makes every other hire in the city. But we create every position that's, any position within the city, the council has the authority to create. The mayor may hire who she wants for all of those positions other than the 5 that we appoint. That's clearly in state statute.
Okay, so, but I keep hearing from Mayor Wilson that council does not have the right to reappoint or appoint positions, and I don't hear any argument from you guys.
We haven't got the council comments yet.
Okay. Because I just want to know where that law is, because I can't find it.
Section 43, I believe.
Okay.
Title 30, 43, clerk.
Okay. All right.
Clearly it's there.
Anyway, I pray for you guys every day.
Thank you.
Every morning, I pray for you guys.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this again, I shared this scripture last time. I'm just saying it again because the Lord's leading me to, but the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. Not having money, it's the love of money that is the root of all evil. So this 3 acres of wetlands being presented on October 21st, and she took office October 24th. Right there, it's all about money. The development of the Fly Creek development, it's about money. I don't think the people that are doing this have the concern of the citizens in their best interests. So I just wanted to throw out that scripture again, and thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Larry Williams, 623 Miller Street, Fairhope, Alabama. Good evening to the council and good evening to the mayor. One vote is what I have in every election in this United States, that I'm able to exercise that right to vote. Apparently, somewhere, the citizens of Fairhope have heard the mayor during her election time, and they liked her agenda that she had. The majority of Fairhope fell in love with her agenda. And we know, citizens of Fairhope, we know what we like. We purchased that agenda that she had. And we purchased with a vote. And the most powerful thing that a citizen have is a vote. And we also elected the councilman, because we thought we were going to elect some councilmen that who was going to help her with what we fell in love with. Now we know we got a problem in Washington, D.C., and it's about to hit the fan this Friday. About the same thing what the president is trying to put forth. I've learned through my foolishness that when I make decisions, I have to listen and ask myself why am I making this decision? Is it out of my heart, or really is it best for the citizens? You guys are all businessmen. And I know that who's ever next to you, that you're entrusting, if they fell too short, they wouldn't be working for you too long. I pray for this city in my daily prayer. The reason why I say daily prayer, because I pray when I'm driving. I pray sometimes even when I'm watching the television. I pray even when I'm involved in a conversation with someone else. I just believe in my heart that all of you are Christians, and the adversary is being glorified. Because if you ain't glorifying God with your decisions, and God sees and knows all things, He will reveal, because He revealed me in my mess. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak on agenda items, please? I'll close public participation. We'll move on to council comments. Councilman Robinson?
Yes, sir. Do I have a time limit?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to use all of it. But I might. I spoke the last meeting we had about the importance of being accurate and correct when disseminating information to the public, and the potential negative effects that there can be when that information that's put out by the city government, whether it's the mayor or the council or the media, is incorrect. And one of the things that can do is it can create issues where no issues really exist. That's one of the things I said before. And I spoke in generalities last time, without pointing to any specifics. You know, and I spoke about getting some phone calls over the weekend, and they were mostly about the same issue. There was a press release issued last Thursday from the mayor's office in regards to potential city services that were going to be cut because of the delay in the budget and the hiring freeze. And so when I saw that and got those phone calls, I didn't know the answer to that, right? And the question was all the same. Can this even happen? I said, I don't know. I said, but I'll check into it. So the first thing I did is I called our legal counsel. I spoke to the city attorneys, and I got an answer. And what their answer was exactly what I thought it might be, but I continued to look because I had more questions. So I called the Alabama League of Municipalities to continue to look into this because I wanted whatever answer I gave to be accurate. This is not my opinion. This is from the city attorneys and from the Alabama League of Municipalities. And here's the answer. When it comes to city services that have been budgeted and approved by the city council, those services cannot be disrupted unless by an act of the city council. So in reference to the Nick Center being shut down, that can't happen unless the city council makes that decision. When it comes to disruption of garbage or recycling, that cannot happen unless by recognition or ordinance by the city council. And it took me some digging to find this information, but it was important to me because it's another thing that this press release is just another thing that seemed to divide an already divided community. And to me, we need to work in every way that we can to make sure that what we're providing to our community is correct, is accurate. And then I've got several other things. And I'm not going to speculate as to what the reasons for the email, for the press release were. But what I do know the results were, and that was to divide the community. And what I'll say is this. One of the things the mayor said a while ago that I totally agree with is we have got to stop the political posturing that is creating division in this community. I think that's absolutely right. And so if there ever is a point where we are attempting to divide this community for political reasons, that is absolutely unacceptable and should not be tolerated by anybody in this community. The next thing I want to say is I want to speak to some of the things that the mayor addressed. One of the things that I saw in the organizational chart that she posted was removal of the special events coordinator. And I've also seen a post about the removal of the department that plans the special events and handles community affairs. In the budget that I've seen, that I expect to be voted on tonight, the positions that have existed since I've been in Fairhope for the last 11 years that are responsible for community affairs and special events are still in there. They haven't gone anywhere. I don't know why the mayor's organizational chart had removal of special events coordinator, because in the budget I've seen, it's still in there. And if it's not, I would not be in favor of that. And another thing, one of the other things in the press release that I asked about, simply because I was curious, was who determines the hours of operation for the city of Fairhope and its offices? And the answer I was given was that that is a policy decision, which is covered by city council vote, meetings, ordinances, and again, these are all things that are budgeted. Once they are budgeted, they become part of the administrative policy of the city and cannot be changed without city council action. And so I know that caused a stir. A lot of people were concerned about losing Nick Center service, and I don't blame them. A lot of people were concerned about losing their recycling, and I don't blame them. But ultimately, the answer I was given by our lawyers and the Alabama League of Municipalities were that simply was not the case. And so, again, I would encourage everybody, whether it's the mayor or the city council, before you put anything out, do a little digging. You know, call the league. They didn't know the answer right off, but they got it back to me. TUT's a very valuable resource, having been involved in municipal government for over 2 decades. Maybe, is it 2 or 3, Tut? I don't want to shortchange you. 3. Okay, 3. I'm sorry. I was shortchanging him. But these are resources that we as a council and we as a mayor have available to us, and I think we should utilize them to because, again, you know, every time we put something out that's not as accurate as it should be, the only people that suffer is the community and the citizens, because they react to this bad news or this news that may or may not be correct. And again, I just would encourage us all to take the time. If you have a question, call your city councilman, call your mayor. I really, you know, people that would call me at home, they apologize for calling me at home. I enjoyed it. I enjoy having the opportunity to get to speak to the citizens about some of these issues, because we sit up here, I don't have the opportunity to engage you one-on-one and discussing exactly why I feel the way I feel about certain issues. You know, a lot of people approach me and they kind of say the same thing. Do you regret your decision yet? Ms. Maggie, you kind of approach that. I don't know how you do what you do every day. Look, it's not always easy. I think that's fair to say. But I always enjoy doing it. You know, it's I wish it was more judging barbecue cook-offs and less arguing about what's right and what's wrong. But it's all part of it. And I encourage anybody to reach out. If you got any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And I thank you for your time.
I would like to at least respond to that, because I did meet with all of the department heads on, you know, what we're facing right now. And we have had more people leave. The divide, if the citizens have been, you know, if there's been a divisive move, it was because of the hiring freeze. The result of the hiring freeze, which has been intact for almost 2 months, where we are today, we are at our minimum. We met with all the department heads and said, you know, they're pulling people from, you know, landscaping to help with garbage pickup and recycling. We had a person leave, gave a 2-week notice. We tried to put somebody in revenue in there to do that job, because right now, if we have a need, we have to add it so the council can approve it. Again, that's the hiring and firing is my role, but they have paused this for almost 2 months. We are still, when you pass the budget, we still have to post jobs, interview, hire, and train. That post is communication to the citizens to understand why we have slow service. I mean, these are the calls we get every day. Why is this not taken care of? You know, I called and I still haven't gotten a call back. I don't want citizens to not have an answer, but at the same time, our city employees we were understaffed before this budget came out, because I explained to you the overtime that we pay each year, you have never seen before. It's never been broken out until I presented it to you during my budget presentation. $560,000 spent on overtime. Is that what you want us to do our employees and continue to do to them? So I'm trying to put in place bare minimum needs, for which you're cutting some of them, which will require more overtime. Overtime it increases our liability, it is more expensive, and it puts a lot of pressure on our employees. But more importantly, there are certain positions you cannot clone. And whether or not you think it's in my power or not to reduce services, unless the 5 of you want to start working for the city and start doing some of these things right now, these services will be cut, because there's nobody there to work it. So, you know, until you
We're going
understand.
to move on pretty soon. This is council comment
Well,
section.
I'm
too.
going to
Mayor, I've
definitely
afforded you a
respond
lot of
to
time.
these
You had your
comments because
comments. You
it's
had
a
your meeting on
ridiculous thing to
Friday. We
say
heard all of
that
this.
I would do that. I'm just communicating to everyone why we have complaints and getting ahead of those complaints, because they'll be there for the next 2 months.
Well, and Mayor, I get that, and I reached out to a lot of our supervisors and spoke to a good bit of them over the course of the last several weeks and asked them truly, you know, without a camera, without, you know, a lot of press, how has the hiring freeze affected your ability to do your job? And the majority of those employees told me the same thing, which is the hiring freeze itself has not really affected my ability to do my job. However, you know, we do need to get a budget in place because there's some things in that budget that I really need. And I said, I agree. But the problem I have with the fact that the budget delay from the council's perspective will create a 2 to 3 month recovery time for the city. I think that's what.
The hiring freeze, the not being able to post jobs.
Well, but my understanding of the hiring freeze is that the ability to post was not limited.
The ability to post, we cannot do.
Just like we did
unless
with
you all okay that position.
Well, I mean, and if it truly was a position of critical need, I would have expected that to be brought to the council.
Twice a month.
We could have a special meeting if it truly was a dire need.
I wouldn't have a special meeting this past week just for the budget. I mean,
We had a special meeting to approve the public.
No,
Yeah.
I called it, you didn't get back with me, so I made plans for the department heads to speak and do it anyway, and then ask y'all to, because that was the
Mayor
meeting we
Wilson,
were going to
I'm
have
ask you to
anyway.
Take a seat, Mayor Wilson, please. We're going to move on with council comments. Any more comments, Councilman Robinson?
Well, the last thing I was going to say is that, you know, my understanding is that we had a sort of the issue that we have in the city in the needs, and I think I saw something that Jimmy said and something that Robert said about the open positions in the city. And my understanding is that we had four open full-time positions in the city that were affected by the hiring freeze, and two part-time. There might have, I think, now I guess now if you take into consideration the Nick Center director that recently quit or resigned, then that would be another. But the real need is in the budget, and the council has had a copy of this budget since March the 9th. That was the meeting that it was presented at, and truly we've been working on it since that time. But it was. And again, I think this is just the way that the course that things take, and it takes time sometimes to get things done. But if there truly is, I mean, the mayor received the budget or the preliminary budget in November of 2016 when we took office and presented it to us on March the 9th. So a little over 4 months. And the council has now had it for a little over 1. I don't think that's an unreasonable amount of time considering the amount of information that is in it. We weren't critical of the mayor for taking 4 months. I don't believe we should be criticized for taking a little over 1. And so that's just my position on it. Obviously, there might be a disagreement to that. Maybe they're rushed. Maybe these budgets are done a lot quicker in previous administrations. I don't know. I wasn't a part of those. All I can operate on is what we do and what we know now. And that's just sort of my position on it. But I appreciate your time. I won't talk anymore. Thank you.
Councilman Conyers?
Yeah, I've got a few comments to make. One, I would like to point out, I know Kelly Eby, I believe, mentioned that she'd like to see some better communication. I think that's a good idea. I agree. I intend to be better at communicating via social media and other avenues. I think all of the councilmen are very approachable if you want to reach out to us and ask us a question. But the mayor does an excellent job of communicating with people from a social media perspective, and I intend to do a little bit better job myself on that. There's another question about appointments. It's true that the mayor has the ability to nominate positions. The council can't appoint someone into that position without the mayor's approval, for example, on the airport authority. However, the council does vote on the people that are nominated by the mayor, so the mayor can't just automatically appoint someone either without the council voting on it. So it's sort of a give and take, and there needs to be some kind of a compromise or
Find 3 better resumes than what you did there last time. Mr. Burrell, Councilman Burrell even said they were all exceptional.
they were good, and I'll certainly,
That bar is already here.
Yeah, she does.
yeah, that's fine. I mean, I've supported them, so I don't disagree with the quality of the people, but I'm just saying, we're sort of in an impasse. The people that are on there are also high quality and have excellent resumes. So I'm just saying, some kind of negotiation would be good there. Next, I wanted to say that sometimes what's fair versus what's right, they don't always match up to be the same thing. I know that doesn't sound like the case, but I have seen several issues on the agenda tonight where doing what's fair and doing what's right for the citizens are not really one and the same. Probably elaborate more on that later. And then on the hiring freeze, there are, I believe, 6 positions, 4 full-time positions that are currently affected by the freeze. The most of the issues that are currently needed are really related to the budget. The 4 full-time positions still affected by the hiring freeze are a revenue enforcement officer, a fire safety inspector, parks maintenance, and a dispatcher. I expect us to lift the hiring freeze tonight and hopefully pass a budget as well. And on the budget issue, I'll talk more about that when we get to that issue. But I did want to point out that to the department heads, to Jill, to the mayor, to everyone, Robert and Jack, who've really, really worked hard on this budget, we appreciate you. We appreciate your time. To the department heads, you don't always, unfortunately, get everything that you ask for, but we do thank you for your work, and we thank you for your service to the city. We have wonderful employees, and we try to give you what we can, but also fiscally be responsible for the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Conyers. Councilman Brown?
Thank you. Bear with me a minute. I'm going to read the list of personnel in the, that were proposed in the new city budget. Human Resource Coordinator, Planning Tech, Neighborhood Services Specialist, Code Enforcement Officer, City Planner, Tourism and Events Coordinator, PR and Communications Specialist, Forensic IT Officer, 4 new full-time police officers, 1 correction officer, a pool custodian, fitness floor attendant, front desk attendant, parks maintenance worker 1, 2 tennis center assistants, about 6 or 7 lifeguards, a front desk attendant seasonal, a parks maintenance worker, which Jimmy just mentioned, another tennis center assistant, a carpenter 3, equipment operator 1, an operator 2, and operator 3, a mechanic, public works director, which we already approved the hiring of the equipment operator apprentice, equipment operator 1, gardener 2, golf grounds maintenance worker 1, golf grounds maintenance worker 1, 2 golf cart attendants, pro shop attendant, snack bar attendant, another snack bar attendant, golf cart attendant again, a starter marshal, a gas line service technician, a gas service line trainee, a line locator, 2 electricians, a lead electrician, a line locator for the electrical department, 2 collection system collector, and assistant sewer plant operator. 28 of those were full-time, the rest were part-time, the seasonal lifeguards and such as that. I'm not saying the city cannot operate without these hires, but I hardly believe the city of Fairhope is going to shut down if these positions weren't budgeted. They were all budgeted except for 9. The positions that were cut out of the budget: the Economic and Community Development Director, Tourism and Events, PR and Communication Specialist, and Neighborhood Service Specialist. Most of these were positions that are already in the department. We were told when we created this Economic and Community Development position, which was kind of pushed on us the last minute before the meeting we approved it, that this was not going to be a department. It was a single person. Council said, okay, it's a high-paid position. We approved the position, and now they say it's renaming a department, but if you look at the budget sheet, it says new department next to the personnel that are in that department. We omitted the forensic IT officer from the police department. Councilman Burrell called the chief, and he said, we can do without that. Just give me some more funding for some training for my current officers. We omitted the equipment operator 1. There was an operator 2 and operator 3. We said, well, let's take one of them out and leave the operator 2 and operator 3. We reduced the tennis center assistant from a full-time to a part-time. We reduced the golf cart attendant from a full-time to a part-time. We talked to the, the gas service line trainee position was eliminated, and the electrical department, there was 2 electricians and a lead electrician that have been in the budget for 2 or 3 years and have not been filled. I mean, if we're going to try to slim down and run efficiently, why are we going to leave 3 positions in a department that hadn't been, if we hadn't needed them in 3 years, why are we going to budget for them this year? So we cut them out. I'll get into more talk on the budget, Jack, and I just want to remind everybody, I think one of the council members mentioned, it's a lot about perspective and whose viewpoints you're looking at these scenarios from, what you read, what you hear. Get the facts and get somebody else's opinion on what's going on. I also want to remind everybody in this room, we stood up and we said the Pledge of Allegiance to one nation under God, indivisible. We should be one city under God, indivisible, and stop the back and forth about who's right and who's wrong. Everybody up here wants to do what's right for the city of Fairhope. We're not out to get the mayor. We're not out here, we have no agenda. We're doing our job. If you don't like it, vote us out next time. Somebody mentioned, we want to trust you. Hey, come with me a reason you don't trust me. And then we'll address the issue, but don't distrust us until you prove it. If you trust us, trust us. If you don't, then come talk to us. I also want to remind everybody that the putting on the grits at the Eastern Shore Art Center is Thursday night. Come on out, support the local arts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Brown. Councilman Boone?
Well, rather than reiterate everything everybody else said, I think I'm going to go to a little lighter note, and I'm going to push or make a plug for the steak cook-off that we have every year. It'll be on May 12th. And it's going to a very good cause this year, which will be the Intermediate School Special Needs Playground, which I think is a terrific cause. So if nobody's gotten their tickets yet, let's all get your tickets, go to the steak cook-off and have a great time. Let's show that there isn't that much division out there, and we can all get together and still have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Boone. I'll address some budget comments at such time we get to that agenda item. I want to just address, kind of my role in putting together an agenda. Tonight, there are 26 items if you count the one that we added, and you take a few things out, like approving the minutes, report of the mayor, public participation, council comments. There's 21 or 22 items on this agenda. The council put exactly 2 items on the agenda. 2 out of 20-something. What happens is the mayor knows that we need to get contracts signed, and staff knows that we need to get agreements and right-of-way settled and approve all number of things, and the staff puts together things that we need for the package, and the clerk puts them in this little binder right here, okay? This is what it looks like. All the background material is in here. I'm trusting whoever puts this material in here that they put what we need in here. I was a little surprised to find out about that land, including 3 acres for the pump station. And it seems like even during the meeting, I even asked the question where Agenda A was. But, a lot of times you ask the question, you don't always push it in a council meeting because you might think, well, I don't want to throw the clerk under the bus, or I don't want to throw that staff member under the bus that forgot to put that sheet of paper in there. So you trust each other, and I don't even really recall that vote, what the vote was. It may have been unanimous, it may not have been, but don't really know what happened to the so-called Agenda A. I do know that in light of being transparent, that this was the very first time I had ever seen any of this presented. So, and that's fine. I mean, if it was found at the end of last week, that's fine. I do want to know more about it. I'm going to ask City Attorney Tut Wynn, who I leaned over And I said, wow, do we need to go into an executive session and discuss this? And he did shed a little bit of light on it. I don't think that it was completely unknown to everyone. Mr. Wynn, would you please read what you told me just a little short time ago, if I may impose on you?
Right. I just found it out that this issue was going to be coming up tonight, just a few minutes before the 4:30 meeting, but I was able to go back and figure out this much about it. The 3 acres is called Lot 6C of the Fly Creek subdivision. It's Lot 6C of a re-subdivision of Lot 6. It went through the Planning Commission. It was approved through the Planning Commission process, and it was approved where this big lot was divided up, and Lot 6C is the lot that's the concern that was brought up tonight. Lot 6C is a total of 3.98 acres. It is 1.67 acres of uplands. It is 2.29 acres of wetlands. It was given to the city in a deed by Mr. Cordy, and the subdivision, the description of Lot 6C was already on a recorded plat. Anybody who wanted to see it could just look at it on the plat. It's a matter of public record. The city had already approved the sewer infrastructure. It adjoins other property owned by the city on the south side of the creek. It also was approved by the Fairhope City Council on the October 24th meeting. And this Exhibit A or whatever, I don't know what Exhibit A was. It may have been a detailed description of Lot 6C, but Lot 6C was clearly described in the recorded plat. Anybody who wanted to look at the subdivision could see what Lot 6C was. It's not anything that was hidden. And it was in front of the Planning Commission, it was in front of the council. It was a matter of public record all the way through. And so that's what I have been able to find out about it so far. I'd like a little more time to look at it, but I do know that I don't accept the premise that was put out there that it creates a great liability on behalf of the city. Just owning wetlands does not create liability. And the city probably owns other wetlands. Somebody owns these wetlands before the city, and I mean, it doesn't create liability just because you own wetlands. Many people own wetlands and they're not liable because they own wetlands. Also the comment was made that we lost the previous case. That's not the way I remember it. I remember that the previous case was settled on very favorable terms to the city of Fairhope. The city of Fairhope was dismissed from the case on very favorable terms. So the description that we lost this other case, that doesn't mesh with my memory of what happened.
I do need to respond to that, Todd. The information, I hope you agree, the fact that we have a lot of wetlands.
I'll give you a moment to respond. I'll give you a moment.
The comment was made that now this gives the people on Fly Creek standing to sue the city because the city accepted this gift of acreage and easement and the city needed part of that for the sewer line. And the sewer line just about cuts the property in half, and a lot of it was wetlands. But the fact that the city accepted a gift of wetlands does not all of a sudden allow everybody on Fly Creek to sue the city. I think that's just a misrepresentation.
I think the concern may be that if it contains that retention pond from the public shopping center, that would be a concern.
I don't think it does. Now, I can check that. I have the plat right here.
I do want to just speak, Todd, that when you watch this recording from October 24th, Jack wasn't aware of it. He read the updated, that it, showed Exhibit A on a screen. And the Exhibit A with the map, none of that was given to council. Okay? So whatever makes up this over 3 acres, It was not done in a transparent way. The information was not given to council to make.
The information was public record. It was for anybody who wanted to see it. It's
Where
public
is it public record?
The plat, the recorded plat of the
So
subdivision.
you have to go, we'd have to go to the courthouse to look at it. Because it was not available at that meeting, Todd.
Well, you
And
know,
it's not
you
even
know,
online
you know,
now.
I'll
When
just
you
say-
pull up this resolution online, on City of Fairhope online, Exhibit A is still not on here.
The detention pond is not part of this.
All I am saying, I have showed this because I had a lot of questions, and I talked to people that understand how to look at this. This was definitely not done in a transparent way.
You know,
and
y'all
there
are trying to
is
make a
something.
big deal out of the fact that somebody left an exhibit off of one resolution, and it's just not a big deal. No matter how you try to cut it, it's not a big deal.
Well, I think that we need a lot more opinions than this, Todd, and
Okay,
I
well, you
think
get
that
all
they
the
would need to
opinions
see
you
these.
want. It's like you've said, you know, if you don't get the opinion you like, you get somebody else.
I'm not saying it's opinion I like. This is something we thought, and Jack even thought, it was the land under the lift station that was being given to us. Because that's how it was worded.
There's a whole sewer line running across this property.
All of this water ends up there, goes under the road and into to Fly Creek. I absolutely,
It's not like
Knowing
Fairhope
this-
paid money for this.
Let's move on beyond this, please. Let's move on. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Attorney. Okay. So with that, and for my comments, I just wanted to point out that there's a lot of moving parts that go into making an agenda. We get this on Thursday, you know, do I look in there and ask the clerk, is every single solitary page that's supposed to be in there? You know, probably quite often, she's relying on the expertise of someone else. If something was left out, there's no hidden agenda. There's no good old boy network if people are pointing the finger at people and saying, there's no conspiracy here. It is curious. I am absolutely curious as to why that was not there. But also, Mr. Wynn puts my mind somewhat at ease on this, but I would say that I don't want to completely ignore that. I really want to verify that that land doesn't. I looked at the plat over here on the computer screen. It doesn't look like it includes that retention pond, but certainly something to consider. Okay, with that, I'll close council comments, and we will move on to the item that we added to the agenda. And this was to add the uniform job description of planning technician to our compensation study. Could I entertain a motion to add the job description of planning technician to our compensation study?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of adding this position, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Okay. The council, I believe that position does exist in the budget. And to your concerns, Councilman Robinson, those positions which you did have concern of are in the budget. Those positions are definitely in the budget. Okay. Now, next order of business would be if someone would want to make a motion to overturn the veto of Mayor Wilson on the Fly Creek PUD sunset provision.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to override the veto. Discussion.
I guess I'm first in line, and if not, I'm going to make myself first in line. I don't want to rehash all of the things that we discussed last meeting. I think I've talked long enough on the issue. Again, I'll be glad to answer any questions, but you know, this new information, I don't know how that affects the vote tonight. I mean, but truly, if there is something underhanded or sinister that's gone, I'd expect it to be investigated. I'd expect it to be discovered, and I'd expect there to be some consequences to it. But obviously, you know, you hear from Tut tonight. I don't know enough about it to give an opinion, to be honest with you. But I do trust Tut in his legal judgment, which he has given us. But again, if there's something to this that needs to be addressed, I expect it to be addressed. But, one of the things, I gave some alternatives for the way this is going to turn out last meeting, but I left two out. And I actually thought about this today, talking to one of our citizens before the meeting started. I discussed all the things that could happen if the request was denied. Well, the two things I left off are, what if it's approved? And one of those would be the request for an extension is approved, the developer meets every requirement that they're required to meet, and the project gets built. But the second is that the council approves the extension, but the developer, in moving forward with their project, does not meet all the city's requirements or the requirements under these ordinances. And the outcome in that scenario is the project doesn't get built. Because if they don't meet the requirements of our planning and zoning department, if they don't meet our regulations, our subdivision regulations, then based on this ordinance and the revision, the project would revert back to the original PUD from 2006, which called for a condo development to be built. And so those are just some additional things to consider in making the decision for whether to move forward with this.
Any comments, Councilman Conyers?
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to say that, my position on this issue hasn't really changed. I believe that while I didn't run for office because of this issue, I do feel that it's why the citizens elected me. I would also say that I think doing what I feel like is maybe right on behalf of the citizens in this case is not necessarily fair, but sometimes those two don't necessarily match up, and just saying that I plan to stick with my original vote.
Councilman Brown, Councilman Boone?
Yeah, I do have something to say. I've heard a lot about the eco and the environment system that creating these apartments is going to create. I don't think what you understand is if it's not created, the apartments are no longer there, but the condos do. And the condos don't have the same rules and regulations set up as the apartments do, and there's no such thing as the apartments creating more environmental issues than the condos. They're the same issues. So unless you're asking Mr. Cordy not to develop that land at all, which I think is highly unreasonable, there's really not an issue here other than the apartments being done under the guidelines that we set forth to help protect the creek as best we can. And second of all, I don't believe anybody in this room would appreciate the city telling them they can have a certain amount of time, and in the middle of that, take it away from them. Not a single soul in this room would appreciate that. That's exactly what I'm trying to avoid right now, is to make it, we told the gentleman he could have a year, and I plan on giving him a year, and it's just that simple. Thank you.
And I just want to add a few comments, just that, I don't believe that, I've heard an argument that would change my belief that, as Councilman Boone said, taking the time away that we gave him is fair. I just think, the matter of fairness, and I appreciated one of the gentleman's comments earlier that he was highly opposed to the apartment complex, as am I. I believe that since it was approved, we have to give them the year that we promised them, and any time that we take away, we must give them that time back. Now, given that the mayor has given some information this evening, I almost, wish I had a caveat to say if this turns into something more than what it may be, then I'd like to have an out. I don't know. I can tell you that if I cast my vote to overturn this veto and the extension is granted, and I do find out that there was something going on behind the scenes that may have pushed this project, and I'm not even certain that the two projects are related. I mean, it's the same PUD, but this is a different phase. If I find out the two are related and there was something that was going on, I would do everything in my power to rescind that vote or rescind that sunset extension. I can tell you that, but until such time, and we could have an investigation of that, until such time that's proven, I think I will stick on the side of fairness. We do have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, clerk, if you'll roll call vote.
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
No.
place 4,
Aye.
place 5.
Aye.
Okay. Veto is overturned. Thank you, council. Item number 6 on tonight's agenda is a resolution that Mayor Karen Wilson is hereby authorized to execute a second extension of the agreement concerning the tolling of the statute of limitations between the Utilities Board of the City of Daphne and the City of Fairhope regarding jointly owned gas lines. City Attorney, Mr. Nguyen, is available if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to authorize an extension.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to execute the second extension of the tolling agreement. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Okay, thank you, council. Item number 7 is a resolution that the City Council approves the selection of Diversified Emergency Management Associates to perform professional consulting services for composing a disaster debris management plan 2017 and modification of disaster debris removal and disposal bid for agency compliance, and hereby authorizes Mayor Karen Wilson to negotiate a fee schedule, establish a not to exceed limit with this firm, and execute the associated contract. So anybody have any questions for Mr. Ames? This is a new requirement, been handed down to us, been mandated on the city. I guess, council, I would say prior to anything is that we've negotiated the fee schedule, established a not to exceed limit, and then execute the associated contract seems to be a bit much. Can we just not get the fee schedule and have it come back for council approval? Dan? Yes.
Yes, sir. This is, as you said, a mandated function for by FEMA, come up with a disaster debris removal plan. That's what these people do. We have done the background check on them, and they are well received by their references and others, and I know some work in the past they've done for Mobile County personally. So they are good at what they do. We need to move quickly on this as we are moving into hurricane season. I need them to do those bid specifications, review them, and make sure they are absolutely compliant with FEMA. If in that process of getting that bid out secured, a storm hits, and we call upon the awarded vendor, and FEMA comes in and says, "Whoops, there's one thing you didn't do here," then we may lose all of that funding for that item in that storm. It's critically important that this be done absolutely by FEMA requirements, and we will all breathe way easier if these guys do it. I know, and to answer your question about, we're going for a fee schedule and a contract at the same time. This is a non-budgeted item. It is very inexpensive, but it's non-budgeted, so we're presenting it to you.
Okay, because there's the clause establish or not to exceed limits. That doesn't need to be in there if they're going to execute the associated contract anyway.
Well,
it's a blank check.
Well, then put a cap on it of 20.
Give us a number.
20,000. I don't care. It's going to be
Will
way
that cover
less.
it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Funding.
Council, if somebody would like to make the motion and then establish a not to exceed limit of $20,000. Somebody like to make that motion?
So moved with the not exceed limit of 20,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the selection, negotiate the fee schedule with a not to exceed limit of 20,000 and execute the associated contract. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Item number 8 is a resolution that Mayor Karen Wilson is hereby authorized to execute a contract with Engineering Design Technologies, our professional engineering services for repairs to Quail Creek Clubhouse 2017 with a not to exceed of $24,500. Mr. Ames?
This is, just as it says, we're hiring the engineer for the golf course pro shop issue and bringing them on board. The RFQ was issued. It's in. You have approved him and us to go get the not-to-exceed figure. So this is to execute the contract. This is the second step.
Did we actually, $24,500 for engineering services for a repair to a frame building? This doesn't fall under a public works project, under $50,000. It may not require those services.
The professional engineering services on a public works contract kick in at $20,000.
20, okay. All right. Thank you for correcting me on that.
Okay, and this project is estimated to be over $20,000.
Okay. Very good. All right, I'll entertain a resolution to authorize the execution of the contract for 24-5.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, item number 9 is a resolution that Mayor Karen Wilson is hereby authorized to execute a contract with Mississippi State University Gulf Coast Community Design Studio, professional consulting services for South Fairhope Community Action Plan with a not-to-exceed price of $27,380.35. Entertain a motion to execute that contract.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to point out, I think this is coming under budget from what we anticipated it costing. I want to say we talked about 40,000, 35 or 40, so.
Don't jinx it, Jimmy.
Yeah, we're not done.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Jimmy. Just had an add-on. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, resolution passes. All right. What did you call yourself earlier, Mr. Cheney, a celebrity?
I think so.
Okay, item number 10, a resolution that Mayor Karen Wilson is hereby authorized to execute a reimbursable agreement for a relocation of utility facilities for the county project number, and you can read all those numbers, between the City of Fairhope and the Baldwin County Commission on County Road 32, 500 feet east of State Road 181, with the proposed location remaining the same and depth being lowered an additional 12 feet. The total estimated reimbursable cost is $17,030, is that 31 or 931?
31.
Oh, 31. I wrote over it with an ink pen. $17,031.47. Somebody like to entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to execute the reimbursable agreement. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Item number 11 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope has voted to procure service for project number GAS 002-17 to relocate gas line on the County Road 32 for the county drainage project and to purchase materials, the required pipe and fittings for the same. The total project cost is $17,031.47, $14,905.13 for service, and $2,216.34 for materials. Robert, that's not a typo. That's the same price. They're identical prices.
Yes, no, it's not. I wrote $14,905 is the contractor to make the board, do all the welding, wood furnishing, material. That's $2,200.
Okay, so is item 10 also the gas? Is that the same,
Yes.
same thing? It is the same thing,
Yes.
right?
10 is the reapproved.
The agreement?
That's right, that's correct.
Okay, that's the agreement. The second is the purchase. All right. All right. I'll entertain a motion to pass this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to procure the services. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, resolution passes. Item number 12 is a resolution that Mayor Karen Wilson is hereby authorized to execute the South Alabama Mutual Assistance Agreement between the City of Fairhope and among the counties, towns, and cities of the South Alabama Mutual Assistance Compact to provide and receive mutual aid as a result of disaster. Mr. Saraceno talked about this in the work session. I will entertain a motion to execute the agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, resolution passes. Item number 13 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope hereby terminates the contract titled City Engineer Services between the City of Fairhope and Jade Consulting LLC due to clause number E, Terms and Conditions, and authorizes Mayor Wilson to sign the necessary paperwork. Council, before entertain a motion for this, I feel it necessary to state that this is not a reflection of Jade Consulting's work. They remain on the professional services provider pre-qualified list. I believe the reasons are that we are to a point where we have hired a operations director that is a licensed professional engineer, and we are in the process of hiring a licensed professional engineer to be public works director, and hopefully eliminate a lot of these costs. So I just want to make it clear that it is not for lack of performance. Jade Consulting has served us very well. There's been talk of cost, you know, that we have paid him, but I can tell you that it's kind of like the city attorney right now. You know, Jade was called very, very often whenever the need was there. I know that staff in the city just picked up the phone and called him, and they don't work for free, so I want to make that clear. I'll entertain a motion to pass this resolution.
I guess so moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Pass this resolution. Any final discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The resolution passes. Thank you, council. Item number 14 is a resolution accepting all of Fairhope's public utilities located in the right-of-ways within Bridlewood Farms for maintenance and to authorize Mayor Karen Wilson to execute the maintenance and guarantee agreement between the City of Fairhope and BR 549. Y'all remember that LLC?
BR 549 up at Roberts Western World.
That's what it says, yes. I believe that's Hee-Haw, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to accept those utilities.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, resolution passes. Thank you, council. Item number 15 is a resolution to award the bid for miniature LED lights with a total bid proposal of $862 per strand for a total cost of $129,300 for approximately 15,000 strands. Mr. Ames, how much did we spend on the lights last year? I know there was two different purchases.
I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I think it was about that much.
Okay.
Today, not to put any pressure on you, but today I spoke with the apparent lowest responsible bidder, and said, you know, I normally do this in November, can you still do it? And the deadline was August 31st, and he said September 1. So we're 1 day out, but I think we can cut him a 1-day deal if we can get our lights. So it's on, but fortuitously, you met today, and this is their deadline for getting the orders in.
Mr. Ames, last year we bought this off of a joint buying group, I believe, did we not?
Shoot, I don't remember, but probably so. We bid it out this year as a bid.
I just didn't see the previous year's bidder on here. But they may have gone through that distributor.
The lights come from China, and it takes, I mean, literally, they put them on a ship and ship them over here and distribute them out. We've got 15,000 strands. We are not a small buyer of these lights, and that gives us a little leverage, but not much.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Ames? If
these
not, I'll entertain a motion to award the bid.
Are these enough lights to cover our trees?
Yes,
If
sir.
they're put on properly.
I was about to say, can we put them on the way we have in years past?
And I will be happy to get in a bucket truck and demonstrate.
And these are
You
LED
can quote me
lights.
on that.
Okay.
These are LED lights, not the ones that draw the voltage.
I want media there for that now. I want to get something out of that when I fall out of the bucket truck.
Well, I make a motion.
I'm taking enough darts.
Second.
Hey, we have a motion and a second to award the bid. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, the bid is awarded. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ames. Item number 16 is a resolution that the City Council hereby approves and authorizes Mayor Karen Wilson to execute a memorandum of understanding between the Baldwin County Commission, the City of Fairhope, and the Fairhope Volunteer Fire Department regarding the shared use of the certain communications infrastructure owned by Baldwin County Commission for the purpose of supporting an interoperable P25 public safety communication system. Mr. Montgomery, you want to come back in here? There he comes. You want to explain this to the council, please?
It's an agreement between the city and the county. 3 years ago, we purchased a P25 system through a volunteer fire grant. After 3 years, this agreement is, the equipment is going to now fall under the county, and they're going to take over the service and maintenance of our system that's located at our tower. In return, we will now have to start paying a $10 per user subscription fee.
Okay. Council, I believe we have approximately 120 to 130 radios on this between the fire department and the police department.
That sounds about right, between the two
80
departments.
and 50 maybe, roughly.
Right.
So you're looking at 130 times 10, which is $1,300 a month. Roughly $16,000 a year is what we're looking at. And just to be honest, I don't think we have a choice. I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the MOU. Any final discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, resolution passes. Thank you, Jeff. Item number 17 is a resolution approval of the 2016-2017 budget. I'm going to ask Councilman Brown. Councilman Brown previously went through all of the positions that were proposed to be created in the mayor's proposed budget. I think that if you see what was removed or proposed to be removed by the council, they're not great changes. So, Councilman Brown, can I impose on you and ask you to read through those changes?
Certainly. Yeah, and like we talked about, this was no easy task. Councilman Burrell and myself probably spent a combined, 15 or 20 hours over the last couple of weeks going through this budget. So it was not something we did in one night. And like we've said, we can't all sit down. So Jack and I would sit down and meet for 5 hours one night, go through, he'd call a supervisor and say, can you do without this? Can you do without that? Yeah, we'll get that next year. I would send the recommendations to the other council members. They would send their feedback, and I would make the next adjustments the next time we met. So that was kind of the process and why it took, the month or a few weeks that we had it. On the revenue side, we increased the impact fee transfer from what Mayor Wilson had. We increased it $115,000 to purchase new police vehicles and something else. I can't remember what else we increased it for, but impact fee has to be used for fire, police, transportation, or parks. Am I correct on that, Deborah? On new purchase. So, and if you don't use them, you lose them. So you have a certain time period in which those impact fees have to be used. So we took the expense out of the expense side for the police department and put the revenue from impact fee transfer. And the only other place where we adjusted the revenue was in the utility transfer, and I'll come back to that. Capital upgrades. Each department has a capital upgrades wish list, if you will. We went through those. The police department, I believe, had $100,000 for dash mount cameras. We reduced that $50,000. Public Works and Street Department, We omitted barricades, and there was $333,000 for a new bulldozer. I think Tim said he could find one for about $100,000, so we reduced it to $100,000, cutting $233,000 out. Public Works Sanitation Department, there was a line item for a chassis and body replaced 541. That body was repaired last year. They said they can get by with it this year. We removed $214,809. Staff agencies and appropriations, we increased the appropriation to the public library to $13,000 to match what was needed there. Capital upgrades in the utility department, we set aside $500,000 for painting the water tower, which will happen at the end of this year. It'll be 2018 fiscal year. In gas department, we omitted a welding truck for $82,500, and that is all we cut out of the capital upgrades. The personnel, I talked about that earlier. So kind of what the council achieved by going through this budget the way we did. The surplus is about the same from what Mayor Wilson had, around the $20,000 to $30,000 surplus, but that number can fluctuate with the amount of money you transfer from utilities. So what we did in this budget, like I said, we put $500,000 in the water tower to paint it into this year. We reduced the principal on debt $383,000, what was not calculated for. We gave a 2% raise to employees that have been with the city for over 1 year. And we annualized the salaries that previously it had just had 6 months in the budget. So we annualized the salaries and made the corrections with the personnel. And so when you get down and you put all those numbers in, we were able to reduce the transfer from utility to general government by $220,000, which has been one of the main talking points of the mayor, is reduce the liability of the city from the utility. So, I think this budget, came together. It did take a few weeks, a month, but I feel very comfortable with presenting it tonight.
I'm going to add some to that, council, and most of you probably don't know these numbers because there was one other very, very large portion of the budget, the capital projects fund, and that's not the capital upgrades that Robert and I sat with City Treasurer Deborah Smith and also Jill Cabanis, our finance director, around 9:30 this morning. And I had to quickly go through some things because there was an $829,000 deficit in the capital projects fund. Things that we adjusted in there, and let's to break that down, there was a projected revenues of $3,192,500 and expenses of $4,021,569. We left in the money that needs to go towards the A-Trip project around about 13 and 48. Also the money that has to go to the A-Trip resurfacing at Fairhope Avenue 181 to Bancroft Street. The Manley Road soccer complex had $130,000 that we left in there. That was to finish up construction there. Tennis courts, there were two items on tennis courts. One was $132, and then if you look down the page, there was $190. By the way, you never received this in your budget. We were never given this sheet of paper. I got it Friday. Actually, I got it out of Robert's mailbox on Sunday afternoon. So, and I panicked, and I called Robert last night, and I told him we had to meet this morning, and so kind of hope you all will agree with this. Monies can be put back in at a later date if you want, but the Manley Road the tennis courts, 132, and then tennis court lights were 190. Well, the tennis court lights, we've already got the bids for, it came in at about 130, so we eliminated 60 there, and that was just a duplicate cost on the tennis courts of 132. So we were able to, and there were some other costs associated with finishing that up. What was that, about 20,000, I believe, maybe? Does that sound right, Jill, Deborah? So we had to leave that in. There was just a catch-all number for drainage improvements of $350,000. That was a number that we were just trying to get in the budget every year. Last year, we had budgeted $100,000, we spent $62.5, but we left $200,000 in the budget this year for drainage improvements, so more than triple what we spent last year. We left in the $229,000 for citywide street resurfacing and miscellaneous paving. We reduced the golf paths, $100,000, thinking that we're 5 months away. We zeroed out that $100,000. The tapped Rock Creek Trail was, we pledged $679,550. We left that in there. The Bratz Hub Transit Shelter, we pledged $60,000. We left that in. The Fly Creek Marina seawall, we've been told is going to come in much under the original estimate after they changed the design. They had $179,000 in there. We reduced it to $100,000. I already mentioned the tennis court lights. For the clubhouse repairs, it'll probably may come in greater than this, but we left in the $125,000 for the Quail Creek clubhouse repairs. We left in the $352,000 for library repairs. It may come in greater than that. We left in the $550,000 for the TAP grant on along Manley Road. There were $200,000 budgeted for restrooms at the North Beach Park. We reduced that to $120. We have $117, $120. I have $100, but we added a little bit back to that. $116? $116? $116. Parking deck improvement. Somebody mentioned parking issue earlier. In some of the citizens' comments, the parking was mentioned. And let me give you my 2 cents worth on that, Council. You know, we have a parking issue, not a parking problem. Parking problems mean you don't have enough parking. You have empty streets. But parking issue, we have a parking deck in the center of downtown that remains 75% empty on almost any given day of the week. We just need to utilize it better. The parking gurus that came last year told us that. They want us to make that more of a park-like setting and put in brick pavers and all, and here we are, more than halfway through the budget year. There was $250,000 appropriated to that, or actually just proposed. And Councilman Boone, if you'll remember, when Mayor Camp put all these items together, he said, I'm just throwing in every request I've heard of. You guys duke it out. You remember that? I mean, he literally put in everything but the kitchen sink and said, duke it out. So Councilman Brown and I reduced that $250,000 for parking deck improvements to $50,000. And I think, you know, proper painting of an international parking symbol on the street should have been done 6 months ago. We should pass a resolution tonight to force city crews to do that. But $50,000 would do a lot to call attention to that parking deck and also clean it up. Then we left in the $300,000 that we pledged to single tax to add to the soccer concession and restrooms out at the Manley Road Soccer Complex. And we zeroed out the $100,000 study needed for the Performing Arts Center to determine what size we needed this year. That's where we stand on that. That should be part of your budget package. I'll be glad to discuss any of those, but we did reduce that $829,000 budget deficit to a slight surplus, very slight. You remember what that number was, Jill? 10 or 20,000, maybe. It's in your. $131? $931. Okay, excellent. Okay.
Coming close.
So, council, we can entertain a motion and maybe get a second and then go into discussion, or we can continue on with discussion about this before we entertain a motion for the resolution. I want to go ahead and read the resolution as well, because there are lots of items, lots of sections to this resolution whenever we pass the budget. So will you bear with me and let me read through these items? Mm-hmm. Okay. It says, be it resolved by the governing body of the City of Fairhope that the proposed budget presented and reviewed the 24th day of April 2017 be hereby approved and adopted for the fiscal year 2016-2017. And be it further resolved that the annual salaries of city personnel shall be as shown on the list entitled Annual Salaries of All City Personnel, and said list filed in the office of the city treasurer. And be it further resolved that a 2% cost of living raise adopted in the budget will become effective on April 24th, 2017 for all full-time employees who have been with the city for a minimum of 1 year. And be it further resolved that Mayor Karen Wilson is hereby authorized to fill all positions that have been approved and budgeted as needed. The next paragraph, I ask you to strike out the first 3.5 lines that were just a typo, copy-paste error. The portion of the sales and use tax revenue that is restricted in the general fund debt prepayment account can be used for the general fund operations up to the $2 million reduction. So up to $2 million, that half a penny that it was to go to pre-debt payment can go into the general fund. In fact, if we do not do that, we would not have money to operate the general fund this year. And also keep in mind that we did increase our scheduled debt principal payments. Be it further resolved that the following procedures hereby established for expenditures. City invoices will continue being paid on a weekly basis in order to take advantage of any available discounts and to more nearly match the outflow of cash to the receipt of revenue from the 3 utility billing cycles. A monthly report will be given to the council members at the beginning of each month, reporting all invoices paid during the prior month. The City of Fairhope administration has the authority to spend on any operational budgeted item up to $10,000 in the aggregate or the budgeted amount, whichever is less. The City of Fairhope administration has the authority to spend on any operational non-budgeted item up to $5,000 in the aggregate. Any purchase order over $7,500 requires the signatures on a green sheet of the mayor, city treasurer, and finance director. In the aggregate means that a purchase, contract, etc. cannot be broken into several purchases to circumvent the law. Any budgeted capital item may be bid with the approval of the mayor, city treasurer, and finance director. After the bids are received, the purchasing manager shall forward to the city council a report and recommendation concerning the award of each bid. The city council will review the report and adopt a resolution rendering a decision. The following resolution is hereby repealed. Resolution number 1879-11, adopted by the governing body on November 28, 2011, which is in there. It just changed the budgeted amounts that they can spend without approval or budgeted or non-budgeted items. Also, be it further resolved that all professional services contracts over $2,500 must be approved by the city council, and should city council disapprove the professional service chosen, they may select another from the list. This policy supplements resolution number 2043-13, which adopted the most recent administrative policy and procedure for quality-based selection for professional services contracts adopted this 24th day of April 2017. Any questions on that, council? I know that's a lot. I have some specific items that I want to discuss if we get a...
Well, I'll make a motion, if you want to go that route first, make a motion we approve the budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the budget as presented. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. I'll open the floor for discussion. I'll go down the list. Councilman Robinson?
I don't have any questions at this point. I might, once the discussion starts
Okay.
going.
Councilman Conyers?
Yeah, I just had a few things to bring up on the discussion. The budget process for 3 of us, this was our very first time. It was the mayor's first time on a municipal budget. It takes some time to get used to this process. I feel like Robert and Jack did a fantastic job of really hammering down and getting to the details of this. As I mentioned, our budget being presented tonight versus the one that was presented by the mayor, it's only about $5,000 or $10,000 variance in the net amount, but there were an awful lot of adjustments that occurred in order to get to that point. $500,000 for painting of the water tower, $383,000 debt retirement that had already been applied maybe in November or December, so it was in this year's fiscal cycle, so we had to count it. There wasn't like you could say, well, we're not going to do that. It was already done, so it had to be included in the budget. About $197,000 for the 2% cost of living increase. We reduced $220,000 the amount of utility transfers, and that has been a very big talking point of Mayor Wilson's, is to try to get the city off of the dependence of the utility department. I've always felt that the benefit of owning your own utility department is to take advantage of the income from there, and that you should be able to transfer back and forth. But we actually reduced it 220,000 from what she had proposed, so we're moving in the right direction there. And then the really large issue was the proposed budgeted new positions or new hires. And we did reduce that by 9 or 10 positions from what the mayor had presented. But based on those 9 or 10 positions, when they were in the original budget that was prepared and presented to the council, those were based on the actual 6 months of salaries and benefits that those individuals would receive. Well, we felt that for a budget cycle, that would have been kind of misrepresentative of what we would have looking forward if we were only to capture that for 6 months. And it'd be misleading in the sense that we may wind up in a real financial pickle, if you will, next year's budget cycle if we hadn't accounted for the full salaries of those positions. And that was about a $400,000 adjustment to account for a full 12 months of salary and benefits for those additional positions. Beyond that, I'll just reiterate that there were only 6 positions affected by the hiring freeze still outstanding, 4 of which were full-time. The real issue was just getting this budget passed, because that's where all the other positions are connected. And then also I had some comments about the growth. I think the original presentation was for 33 new positions. We have 285 employees. That's about a 12% increase in employees, and we just felt that that was more than the budget could allow for. So that was one of the reasons some of those positions were cut. And I may have more to add later,
Sure.
but
Okay.
go ahead.
Absolutely, you'll have that opportunity. Councilman Brown?
I don't have anything else.
Councilman Boone?
I don't have anything.
I'd like to add that there's a lot of people concerned with the person that is currently the Economic Development Director. A lot of concern over that person. And let me say that while that position is not being funded, the position of the Director of Community Affairs is being budgeted, $94,500 to be exact. When we approved that position, it was very distinctly, and don't take my word for it, go back and watch the video. I asked the mayor, are you going to need any support personnel or any budget, for this person? The answer was clearly no. And so when we got the budget, there was a department created, Department of Economic Development, that had 4 or 5 positions in there. And I am of the mindset, if it's not fixed, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I think that our Community Affairs Department, and I don't even care if the mayor changes that on the org chart. You can call the Community Affairs Department the Department of Economic Development. I mean, that's just a name that the mayor puts on her organizational chart. So to think that we're sending somebody off without pay is just simply not true. I fully expect, and I do see that the Economic Development Director was placed in the position of Community Affairs Director. That person is responsible for publicity, communication, taking care of, being the liaison for things such as the Arts and Crafts Festival. That is still economic development. But I believe that this council thought it prudent to not grow the government as the budget was doing. I mean, it was growing the government as at a greater pace than we were comfortable with. So I don't think that we had the will to create the Department of Economic Development, or whatever name you want to call it, all of those positions. So we weren't pulling the rug out from under anybody. I think that they will just simply slide into a new position. There was also a lot of talk about whose responsibility it is, and Councilman Robinson touched on this, to hire and fire, create positions. People, I have more education in the municipal government than most people up here, probably not Tut or Lisa, but I check with Tut and Lisa all the time. Clearly, the council is doing their job by creating positions or eliminating positions. We are not filling positions. We're not hiring and we're not firing. We are simply budgeting positions that are to be filled by the mayor. We have not taken any of her responsibility away from her, but it is clearly our responsibility This is state law. This is unquestionable as to whose responsibility it is to create and fund these positions. If you go to any conference at all that the League of Municipality puts on, budgetary decisions are 100% the responsibility of the city council. The mayor's job is to put together a framework. It is not uncommon throughout the state of Alabama for a city council to put 100% of the budget together. 100%. It's very, very, very common. It was done from 2008 to 2012 in Fairhope. I appreciate the fact that the mayor puts together the budget. It takes a lot of work off the council. It remained probably, I don't know, 97% intact from what was put together. We just get to play with a very small slither of it. So we're not getting into the day-to-day operations of the city, but I will tell you unequivocally, this council is doing what we were elected by the citizens to do. I hear a lot about, you know, what we were elected to do. And I'm going to tell you, if you're voting for a council member, you need to think that their main priority is the city finances of the city that you're electing them to serve. That's their number one function. And also, as Councilman Robinson said, to make policy and procedure, we're also over all the real estate of the city of Fairhope. So clearly, it's within our right. Not only it's our right, it is what it should be expected of us. So that's all I have to say.
I've got something else, Jack. I was sitting here thinking, you know, the mayor's mentioned at several meetings over the last, you know, while she's been waiting, trying to get this budget approved, she's mentioned savings that aren't shown in the budget. And Councilman Burrell has repeatedly, and he asked last meeting, get me a list of the savings, and she said, I will. We're still not seeing a list of the savings. So to budget based on unknown savings, if there's going to be savings, that's great, but let's get through this first year, and if we've got savings, and guess what? I might reconsider the Economic and Community Development Department if it proves that it can generate revenue, but I'm not going to base my budget approval process on savings that have not yet been shown.
That reminds me of something else I wanted to say, Councilman Brown. I did hear the mayor earlier, and I do sympathize with her on this, say that nobody came to her and with any of these changes. Now, I'm going to be quite frank, and I don't know, I hope the mayor's outside to listen, is that I've tried to go and speak to the mayor about things. When I talk to her about the changes, the mayor says, I will explain it to you. I get it. I understand it. I don't need it to be explained to me. I'm going to suggest changes, not to go get a lecture on why something needs to remain in the budget. Therefore, I literally chose not to. I didn't want to go in there and be told why I need to do something. I'm on the council. My authority rests with this budget, and I went in there to make suggestions as to what I would like to see, not to be explained why something else was in the budget. So she is right. I did not attempt to go in there because I didn't need to be lectured on why something was in the budget, because I fully understood why. And that may be unsettling to some people, but that's the truth.
I just want to clarify something that Council President Burrell just said. There were meetings between the mayor and the council about this budget. We met two at a time and one at a time on different occasions. I don't know when the last meeting was had, but I know that there were meetings between the mayor and the council about some of these issues in the budget. So I don't know if we're talking about more recent meetings, but there were meetings between the council and the mayor.
Well, actually, to prove that point, we received the budget on March 9th. We had meetings with the mayor, which asked us several dozen questions, which produced several 20 to 30 sheets at a different time to be given to as part of the budget to replace the items that were in the budget. So basically, and then we met again and were given more items to the budget after that time. So basically, we've really had since about March 30th to be looking at this budget and put it together as of right now, once all the numbers got in through all the different questions. So I think it was done in actually a pretty quick time, considering what it takes to go over these budgets, which is my fault.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion and a second to approve the 2016-2017 budget. All those in favor? I'm sorry, final chance, final discussion. Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, the budget is approved. Thank you, council. And I hope that we have been transparent with the people in discussing every single solitary change that was made, every nickel that was changed. Item number 18 is a resolution that the governing body hereby expressly lifts the hiring freeze and authorizes filling of budgeted positions.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to lift the hiring freeze. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Thank you, council. Item number 19 are appointments to the Museum Advisory Board. The appointment of Paul, help me out with that, Chaka? Is Paul here? If you're watching, Paul, I apologize. Okay. I'll entertain a motion for the appointment to the Museum Advisory Board of Paul Chaka. It's a tough one, guys.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, the appointment is made. Item number 20, appointments to the Airport Authority. Once again.
I'd like to just make some comments about this. I know I've been supporter of trying to find a compromise in the past, and I'll continue to try to find a compromise and negotiate on this topic, but at the moment, there's not any support from the mayor, I don't believe, nor the council on working out a compromise, and I don't see the need to continue to put this on the agenda and bring it up until we get to that point. So I'll continue to try to find some common ground, but until we get there, I don't think it's wise to put this on here just to try to make folks look bad if they're not in favor of changing the nominations.
In compliance with state statute, the mayor requested it be put on there again. Therefore, I comply with state statute and put it on the agenda once again. Now, advice from the League of Municipalities is for us to amend our council procedures if we so choose to say that once an item is defeated on the agenda, it can not come up for consideration for some finite amount of time, whether that be 30 days or 45 days or 60 days. And you have to leave yourself an out on that. They said it's something that we could do to keep from punishing the people. I see Pam Caudill. She's been at every meeting for I don't know how long, and I'm sure she's got other things to do than to be here for this. It's quite troubling that we go through this. As one of the ladies said in the comments earlier, that they were all qualified. I stick by that. I feel like the people that we have are qualified and want to continue to be served. They've taken lots of darts and arrows over the past several months, and none of them were deserved. And I appreciate them serving. So I will, out of respect for the mayor who put this on the agenda, there is the first nominee by the mayor is Christine Kiernan to replace Vince Booth, whose term expires March 2017. I will entertain a motion to approve that nominee. Hearing no motion, that fails for lack of a motion. The second nominee by the mayor is to appoint Blake Waller, replacing Pam Caudill, whose term expires March 2017. I'll entertain a motion to appoint that nominee. Hearing no motion, that fails for lack of a motion. And those members will remain on the Airport Authority at such time as they are replaced. I want to set the record straight as well. I read on social media that the Fairhope Airport Authority had put up their own nominations, which is entirely false. The Airport Authority simply voted on a motion to recommend to the mayor to reappoint the current members. So If anybody reads that, I need to set that record straight as well. They did not try to make a nomination. They simply made a recommendation to the mayor. Item 21 is an application for a nonprofit tax exempt license by Jamie Seeley for Project Movement in Art Incorporated for Dance Arts South Generation Z at 161 North Section Street, Fairhope, Alabama, on June 3rd, 2017, from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Chief Pettis, is everything in order with this application?
Yes, sir, it is.
Is there any reason to deny us? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve this application.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the application. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Item 22 is a request from Katie Evans, the board president of the Exceptional Foundation of the Gulf Coast, requesting permission to block the streets, School Street, Fairhope Avenue, Bancroft Street, and Morphy Avenue for the bike parade from 6 p.m. to 6:20 p.m. Is that correct? What's that? Short, okay, and use the Fairhopers Community Park and the use of barricades for the red, white, and bike event on July the 1st, 2017, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Chief Pettis, I see you've signed off on this. Is there any reason to deny this? Okay, thank you, Chief. Okay, we have a motion and a second to grant this request. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Okay, the request is granted. Item 23 is a request from the Fairhope Volunteer Fire Department requesting the use of the James P. Nick Center on Saturday, December the 2nd, 2017, for the Fairhope Volunteer Fire Department Wives Dinner, and we have requested the fees to be waived.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second granting the use of the Nick Center for the fire department.
I have one question. Are we invited? That was a darn good dinner last year. Appreciate it.
Okay, here, a motion and a second to grant the request. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, request is granted. Thank you all for being so patient tonight. Item 24 is a request from the Fairhope Volunteer Fire Department requesting the use of the James P. Nick Center on Thursday, September the 7th, 2017, for the Baldwin County Fire Chiefs Association meeting from 4:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. and have requested fees to be waived. Entertain a motion to grant this request.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of granting this request, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Okay, request is granted. Item 25, public participation. If you have anything else to bring forth before the council, please come forward and state your name and address. For the record, you'll be given 3 minutes. Yes, sir.
My name is Jay Harlan. I live on Wisteria, near the mud pit. That's not what I'm going to talk about, but maybe I will talk a little bit about mud. I have 3 minutes. It won't take that long. I'll tell you a little about myself. I'm a businessman in Fairhope. I've been here 30 years. I manufacture products that I sell in China and other places in the world, and I'm proud of the Fairhope workers. And I see the same workers when they come and do my utilities. This is a great place. It's a great place to live. And this whole budget is about making Fairhope a better place. Now, having said that, you know, I have investments in other parts of the country and world, and I was gone for a couple of years, and I came back, and I tried to catch up with what was going on. I said, okay, who's on the council? Who's the mayor? Karen, oh, one of the smartest people I know. That's great. And in watching this, I don't think you have any schism at all, except one. There's only one schism. And what I see going on is I came back, I found out, you like to play golf, don't you, Jack?
I do.
Yeah, you play with Judge Snydeker and Hicks and
Never
They're
played
golf
with
buddies.
Ray Hicks in my life. I don't
Never
even know if he
did?
plays golf. Don't even know if he
But
plays.
Snyder, though, right?
I've probably been 3 years since I played around with him, yeah. But I
Yeah?
have played with him.
Okay. You any good?
Is he any good?
Yeah, are you any good?
Not as good as I used to be.
Oh, I was never good. I'm the world's worst golfer. I know I'm running out of time, but I'll circumlocute around this pretty quickly. My understanding was that you went to the Masters in 2016 on a jet belonging to Hicks
Never
and
been to the
Schneider.
Masters in my life.
Never been to the Masters
Never
in your
been my
life?
whole life.
Okay. Well, then I'm wrong. I had people that identified you on that plane, but hey, I'll admit when I'm wrong. But I do know that Snyder is now our judge. And you appointed him, didn't you?
I was one of 5 that voted to appoint him, yes, sir.
And I've heard he's a good man. I heard he also got the tail end of a $10.2 million settlement. But he's judge now, and that's a very honorable position. And Hicks, his partner, who was also sued during that settlement, or as you would say, Mr. Wynn, it was a favorable outcome because we settled for more than it would have cost us. Not to put words in your mouth.
That's what insurance companies decide sometimes.
Yeah, they decide everything. So now Hicks is the treasurer and at the airport authority, and you rejected other contracts in favor of Hicks and Snyder so they can park their 3 planes in their own garage, and that's a pretty sweet deal. But you're saying you've never been on one of those planes?
I said I've never been to the Masters, sir.
Oh, never been to the Masters. Okay, that's fine. I've never been to the Masters either. I just, I think there's some ethical issues that are going to be coming up. And I want to talk to 3 new members of the board. I don't want to see you guys follow somebody down a rat hole. When the day is done, all you have is your character. You only have the ability to look in the mirror, look at your wife, look at your children, and ask, is this the person I want them to see? Am I doing the right thing? There's not a problem here. The only problem I see is the mayor being restricted from doing her job. And I have my suspicions on who is behind that and what's going on. But to the 3 new members of the board, and I'm talking to you right now, vote your conscience. You're all smart people. You all have reputations. You have to make a living in this town as bankers, attorneys. It's important that you be respected and be selfish. Do what is in your own self-interest. And I want to thank you. I know it's been a long evening. I was able to go out and go to the bathroom. I know you people weren't, so sorry. Thank you for your service. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Ron Allen, 6612 Willow Bridge Drive. I've been here 11 years, and I've heard allegations of deep pockets and business dealings and whatever. I have never seen any proof. I don't believe there's any proof. I think you're all honorable, and I support all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Oh, Tut, let me clarify something. I didn't say we won the lawsuit. We did settle the lawsuit. I came to Mr. Burrell and to Mr. Mueller, who was on the council at the time. I told them that I would steer the people that were involved to settle the lawsuit. In an effort to move forward at that time and to reduce lawsuits, because at that time I was even active in.
You did not say you won, but someone else who was
Correct.
making comments said that the city lost, and that's what I took issue with.
Correct. We settled. The people that were on the creek had standing more than I did. I was talking about ordinances, right-of-ways, and all of the offenses that happened with the publics, the trees and all of that. The people on the creek had standing and settled for 3 times the amount of money.
But not with the city. The city was out of the case.
That's correct. However, this piece of property is key. You start the work session, 2 work sessions in a row, you got a harbor master or the guy talking about the harbor, the first thing he's telling you is that the channel has got to be clear to be able to have a marina. Please tell me that you know that damage is coming from upstream. It was filled up during the public's property. Now, I started on this before the first tractor was cranked up. I beg to differ with you respectfully, Tut, but if we wind up if that property, let's say they go in there and they develop that, and we have the same incident that happens again, the people on the creek, now that we own the property, are going to sue the city. I mean, they're going to sue the city. That's what's going to happen. You already have a pending lawsuit now.
The city's already been sued twice on this, so I guess they could get sued again. I guess they could.
That's correct. Any of the budget that's happened before this time, and I've been going to this for 12 years now, we never had this problem with the budget. The budget was rubber stamped straight through anything Mr. Camp wanted. Very, very little debate. Only time there was some debate was when we had a finance committee that worked full-time on an entire committee. That's when we had a little bit of debate, and that's what should be going on now. I'm not questioning your ability to do the budget, but I am saying that I do think a finance committee would do a far better comprehensive job. I do not think that Mr. Boone should be voting on anything to do with that Cordy property. And the reason being is he's involved with an LLC in Firefly, which Mr. Cordy owns.
No, he's not.
We see it in writing, in print.
I've been involved in any LLC with anybody the last 7 years.
Okay, all right. I'll get you a copy of it and send it to you. I can't believe you don't even know you're a member of it. Look, I don't know what you guys think, but I'm going to tell you a greater part of the community sees an abrasiveness and just not a sense of cooperation. I'll admit that it takes 2 sides to make this thing work. But we're working against each other here. You're working against each other. You're slowing down everything in the city. To say, Jake, that services are not going to get hurt if we don't keep up with hiring, come on. Something's got to give. I'm not saying it is, I mean, that's just logical.
I didn't say services would not be
shut
hurt.
down.
I said that they could not be shut down without the council approval.
Well,
So the
okay,
fear
that's-
and the
but
threat
still-
of them being shut down was what I was pointing out as
correct,
inaccurate.
but they still can be slowed down by not having the individuals.
Well, that's true.
I don't know what it's going to take to break this, to, get to a point of being a little bit more cohesive. But something's got to give. Something's got to give. And there's more of you than there is of her. In the past 16 years, Mayor Canton had his way anything he wanted to do. Anything he wanted to do. I never saw anybody buck him like you guys have been bucking her. That's what?
That's enough.
We don't need all this.
Oh,
All right, wrap it up, Mr. Ripp, please. We've given you've
Well-
given more than 3 minutes. Thank you.
well, that's what I'm saying. You're going to have to do something to stop this. When you watch this on TV and you sit here in the audience, you're not getting the impression that anybody's trying to work with anybody here. We're not going to go forward. All you're going to do is just throw us into a limbo situation. We're not going to get anywhere, and it's going to hurt us in the long run. And we got some very serious issues that need to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to say that I've never seen a single council member attack the mayor on social media. I've never seen you make any accusations. I've never seen you post emails. I've never seen you really go out and do anything that would undermine the mayor's authority whatsoever. Not one time. Not once. But I have seen the mayor attack us weekly and almost daily. I've seen people like Mr. Ripp, who advised the mayor, and Mr. Mosier attack council members almost weekly. In Mr. Ripp's case, it is weekly. It's twice a week. Call me arrogant. I don't see it coming from this side. I see it coming from the mayor's office. I feel like I'm constantly under attack. I feel like there's constantly plants in the audience that come up here to get under my skin, just to get a reaction, to make an accusation, to see if it sticks. I see it every day. And you're not seeing it going the other way. You're not seeing it. I'm making an accusation now, I guess, but you just don't see it. So I want to defend this council and say that we have been professional, kept our mouth closed. There are a lot of things we could bring up. There are a lot of things out there we could bring up, but we choose not to because we don't want to be seen in that light. Am I correct, council? Is there things we could bring up?
I think I said this earlier, and I'll say it again. One of the biggest criticisms that I've received recently is not taking to social media to dispute some of the things that are out there. And my position to that has been, I have not wanted, there's already so much disagreement and division already. It's been my goal not to further that by engaging in a public debate over some of these issues. I mean, we handle our business here, and I personally choose not to drag Fairhope through the mud if I don't have to.
A closed public participation petition, and ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of adjournment say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. We're adjourned. Thank you, council.